Every year, I like to set a goal for the amount of art to do. Last year, my goal was 100, which I was able to do. So this year, I tried to bring it up to 200, which I think was probably a bit too much, since I didn't quite make it that far. Though I did get fairly close. Last year when I did this, it took quite a while to go through all the art. I mean, I had 100 pictures, so that can take quite a bit. So this year, to make things not take like 3 hours long, I'm going to try to speed through it a little bit. If there's an image that I don't have much to say about, I'm going to kind of skip over it. Alright, so starting off, here's the first image, the New Year's celebration. I always like doing an image at the end of the year with a lot of the different things I made that year, or maybe just with a lot of the characters that are more important than others. So that's kind of the idea I had for doing this one. I really wanted there to be a nice mix of kind of warm and cool colors. So like some nice reds and oranges with some nice blues and purples. Most of the more important or common characters I draw are here somewhere. After that, there's this picture. A bunch of blobbers cleaning this guy. You know, I make names for characters if I need to, but a lot of the time, it's like the last thing I think about. It's like this character, I think I called him a subloafer, but when it comes to names, I really need to get better at it. I feel like there's a really good chunk of characters I've made that I've just never named. So if you're ever wondering what a name of a character is, chances are they don't have a name. After that, there's this one, the B&B lobby. This place is actually inspired from something I made years ago, a miniature scene. I don't think I can still find it. I'm not entirely sure if it's still intact, but I made a video on this old channel, Brickbox Animations, where you can see it. You can't really get much of a glimpse of it, but this image I did is pretty accurate to how that looked. I'm not going to go into it now, but basically I had an idea for a story for this video, which as you can see, I never continued since there's only one part. So now I've been thinking of kind of going back to that story and continuing it in a sort of way. Basically, this is a recreation of that. Next, here's a picture of someone selling lemonade. Pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, and here's outside of the B&B. Again, a pretty average B&B. Here's a character that you'll be seeing a fair bit more of, so I'll tell you his name. He's Chocolate, and he's a character I've had for quite some time. He's actually inspired off of a teddy bear I have. Here's another character that you'll be seeing even more of. His name is Beep, and I'm not quite happy with how this image turned out. I think it's a bit too hard to make out things. I think the colors are just a bit too all over the place. I don't know, I'm not really a fan of this one. And then of course, here's a recreation of a famous painting. I believe the original is called American Gothic, so this is Blobbian Gothic. I haven't tried to recreate a famous painting in a while, but I want to do that again. It's always fun taking an image and then trying to figure out how to recreate it with the Blobby Adventures style. It can be a bit hard to replace a human with a blobber though. They're a bit different height-wise. And here's a nice sunny day of some blobbers doing a barbecue, though it doesn't seem like it's on, and I think this guy's having a bit of trouble. Another image that I'm not happy with, it can be hard to do action scenes very well. You have to get the perspective right and stuff, and at the time I hadn't done too many, so I was still kind of learning of how to do it right. I mean, I say that as if I've learned how to do it and I'm doing it right now. I still don't know how to do it, but my point is, I knew how to do it even less at this point. Here's another floor of that B&B I showed you earlier. This one's called the fish rooms, because there's fish. Here's a kind of Japanese-inspired one, a blobber making sushi. And I don't know Japanese, but I believe that kanji in the back there is the kanji for rice. I could be wrong about that though, so hopefully it's correct. I got this picture from a dream. Also in the dream, kind of further along that trail, the trees kind of shift into like a giant hedge maze. I couldn't capture that in this image, but yeah, it was a weird dream. I don't really remember it too much now. It had a dock along this river, and I thought it would have made a nice picture, so I drew it. I get a lot of ideas from dreams. This is the sap rooms from the B&B. This one's kind of more tree inspired, though I think if I were to redo it now, I'd make it even more forest-like. I don't think there's enough trees and stuff. Here's a very dangerous image. This is probably inside of a volcano or something. And again, I was trying to work with that really extreme perspective. And again, I think it's just a bit off. Not quite there yet. For this one, I kind of had the idea of like a futuristic lab that was kind of abandoned or left in an emergency or something. So it's kind of dark and creepy, but there's still power to most things. And this is the library rooms. Again, from that B&B. I kind of like the colors I did with this one, though it doesn't quite fit the theme of the other pictures. I think the kind of crazy perspective with this one is a bit better, though it's still a bit off. Also, the colors again are kind of odd. I don't go too dark with this one. I feel like my shadows I'm doing lately have been a lot darker. Not sure if I should change that or not. And again, this one has beep in it. Oh yeah, this one was for Valentine's Day. I wanted to include chocolates in it somehow, so I made this like really mini shop. I think it's kind of cute looking, and that tree in the background is shaped like a heart. I also kind of like how you can like faintly see houses, but you can't make any detail out from them. Kind of looks like there's like a big snowstorm going on in the background or something. Another Valentine's Day one. I feel like the colors are a bit too dark around the edges. I feel like this picture could have been a lot better if I just brightened up things a bit. Here's another one of chocolate just traveling along. You know, he does that a lot. Every image you'll ever see of chocolate has him traveling. Here's the dark rooms, another floor on the B&B. This one kind of has a spacey nighttime feel to it, but I didn't want it to be creepy. Just that kind of cozy night feeling. They Came from Beyond the Fence, a terrifying film by Pippin Blob Studios. This one's called The Hedgelands, and I had quite a bit of trouble while making it. I really like how properly drawn hedges look, but I don't feel like I properly drew these hedges. Spent quite a while, I remember, trying to get this to look right. Yeah, it just doesn't look right to me. This is probably one that I'm going to have to go back and try to redo again. I think the shape of it is just overall kind of all over the place. I actually quite like how this one looks. It's a bit more simpler when it comes to the shading than other pictures, but I think it works well. I think sometimes I kind of do too much detail in places, and with this one there's just the right amount. I also use very limited colors for this one. Most of it is just blue. You know, something I'm gonna do at the end of this video is probably rank what my top 3 favorite pictures are for the year, and this is definitely a contender. I like the weird sky pattern I did with this one, and I kind of like how this spot looks, but overall I think this picture has a bit too many different colors fighting for attention. For this one, I wanted to try kind of making a dark spaceship feel cozy, because you know, a lot of the time when you think of cozy, I think you kind of think of something more old-fashioned, a lot more red and browns, maybe a lot of woods and stuff like that. You don't usually think of a spaceship, so that's what I tried for this one. A cold blue metal spaceship that feels cozy, and I think I did a fairly good job of it. This is the first art I think I did for a town I made called Cape Noctum. I think it's decent, though the town layout has changed a bit since then. This is the Puddingery, and it only sells pudding. Luckily, pudding can mean a lot of different things. Like, for example, Christmas pudding is obviously very different from like that jello-y pudding. There's also different types of breads, which can also be considered a pudding. Even though it sounds pretty limiting for a shop to only sell pudding, there's actually quite a few options. For this one, I tried to design a spaceship, but make it kind of cute feeling. By the way, this is the same spaceship as the other one, that cozy spaceship interior place. This is the outside of it. So of course I wanted it to be fairly cute and nice to look at. Here's a pond. I don't have anything else to say about it. This was around St. Patrick's Day, so I kind of wanted that green and wet feeling, and of course some gold. So here's some blobbers with some coins. Only these coins are much more valuable than gold since they're chocolate. Here's a winter village. I think the perspective with this one is off a bit. I don't like that about it. The colors are decent though. This is Tele 1, not to be confused with a telephone booth. They're very different. This is style testing, which is as it sounds. I was just playing around with some different styles. I think for this picture the watercolor one looks the best, though it was kind of hard to work with it. So I think I kind of tried doing a mix of watercolor, airbrush, and the painted style. Though of course my style has changed quite a bit since then, so I don't even know what my style now would be when compared to this. Also, something a bit funny, I remember at the time I never drew using this kind of, I don't know what technique it would be called exactly. I called it in this picture the lasso tool. It's basically when you select a part of the image, then just fill it in with color. I never drew that way at this time, which is why I tried to do it for this image, but I've actually started doing it now for real, and I kind of know how it works more. So if I tried the lasso tool now, I would do a lot better job of it. I remember for the early stages of this picture, it looked pretty good, but I kind of did my mistake of adding too much detail, and I feel like it kind of ruined it a bit. Overall, I'm not too happy with this one. I think this one has a fairly good motion to it. The colors are nice as well. Though I don't feel like I did the splash of the pie good enough. The pie kind of looks like it's turning into paint rather than actually exploding from impact. Then again, that could also be a benefit. Depends on how you look at it, I guess. I don't do comics, at least not really, but this was kind of my first attempt at doing a somewhat comic. Just going through the different times of day of two blobbies making some pancakes. Now this was around Easter time, so here's a bunch of eggs in an egg collecting room. Every year I always do a list of a few different types of eggs. So this was 2023's egg list. I quite like how these eggs turned out. Also, it's kind of hard to see, but on this elegant egg, these symbols right here mean tamago, which is egg in Japanese. This is the butchery, except the way they get meat is a bit more scientific than getting it from animals. If you go back to some of the earlier videos of this channel, you'll see I have a few videos of the Chocolates Travel series. This was a series that I originally planned on making animations for, but I realized that, well, it was just a lot of work, and animations don't do that well on YouTube. So I've decided a better way of telling that story. This is concept art for a reimagining of that first place in the first Chocolates Travels video. Here are some professional painters doing their professional work. Here's some concept art for a bunch of different types of turrets related to food and selling food and stuff like that. Here's a blobber planting some bagel seeds, hoping to grow a bagel plant. This is another character I should probably mention, although they don't have that many pictures. This is Winter. Here he's attempting to be a detective to figure out this horrible crime scene. Here's a nice little lemonade stand. I actually quite like how this one turned out. It's just a nice road in a kind of futuristic area. The perspective is a little bit off, but overall I think it's fairly nice. Here's another area in that same place, that kind of futuristic musical area. And again, the Lemonade guy's here. Also, he doesn't appear that much, so you don't really need to know his name, but I'll tell you his name because I like his name. His name is Lentigo von Peppador. I don't know why I gave him such a unique name, but I don't know. Sometimes you need to make a really weird name for a character, and Lentigo von Peppador seems like a suitable name for him. And this is the LM Arc, which stands for Lemon Meringue Arc, and it's a Lemonade guy's airship. Here's another attempt at a comic, this one for Chocolate's travels, just of Chocolate finding a creative way to get over a river. Here's some arm cannon concept art. Here's another half comic. I think this one turned out decently with the colors, having it be at sunset, then even more sunset, then nighttime. Here's Frosted Falls. I think it was originally going to be an Easter picture, but it got quite delayed. I don't like this one because it doesn't look frosted enough. I wanted the trees to look like normal trees that were kind of turning blue because they had frost in them. Instead they just look blue, which was not my intention. This one's got a real weird perspective to it, and I kind of like that about it. This picture wasn't originally going to even be a picture. I just sketched Chocolate with this weird gun and two blobbies, but then I figured maybe I will just turn into a picture, so I kind of quickly did that. I didn't do much work for the background though. I kind of just vaguely put a bunch of different colors down that kind of looked like they could make out a forest. And here's another one that started as a sketch, but then got turned into a picture. Basically the same story as the last one. Again, another one for Chocolate's travels. This time he's around the cliff. I really forgot I did this. This is a third sketch that I turned into a picture. I actually think I had a set of 3 sketches that I turned into pictures. I kind of forgot about that until just now. Actually, no, I take it back. There were actually 4 sketches in total, and this was the 4th sketch that I turned into a picture. Except this one I did a lot more with it, and I actually turned it into this whole mine kind of thing. A weight mine. Actually, wait, no, I take it back. The other one wasn't the 4th sketch. This was the 4th sketch. I remember that now. And this was the one that I turned into a full picture. I always like drawing light. Light always has so many different colors in it. Sounds kind of hard to draw, but at the end of the day, if you just get an airbrush and put a bunch of different colors in it, you can usually create light without really having to think about it. This is the dance shop. It's a shop where dancing is permitted. This is Fort Foley. It's a fort, and it has Foley. Here's some concept art for a character I started calling Palco. Here's Chocolate traveling through this fall forest. I think I actually got inspired for this one from Tears of the Kingdom, because the starting area in that game has a lot of yellow and gold trees and grass, which I thought was a very unique idea for trees. Here's some boxes of Chocolate traveling through different areas. This is Fort Foley again. This time they're just cooking some stuff. I need to make a bunch of fruit items for a game, so this was my first attempt at it, though my style has changed a bit since then, so I may need to redo this all. I'll see. Here's a desert town. Here's Beep again, trying to be a baker, and kind of failing. I mean, it depends how burnt you like your food. This one's called Factory Rush, and it's a really fiery picture. I believe this guy in the background was kind of inspired from those tiki pole things. Here's Blizzard Cave Hideout, which I'm not a fan of. I don't think I did really anything right. I don't think the cave light looks right. I don't think the light out here looks right. I wanted it to be a snowstorm, but I don't feel like it feels enough like a snowstorm. I think the blue is a little too bright. I really don't like this one actually. Here's some more Palcos, this time forest themed. Here's Blobby Village Forgotten Side. These guys are attempting to do a weather report in not the best weather. Same story with the fruit panel. This is a vegetable panel, and again, I might need to redo this at some point. Here's some concept art for a character called the Subloafer. I talked about him earlier. These are just some different variants they can come in. This is called Terror in the Forest, and it's some forest paucos being intimidated by a blobber with a flashlight. Here's some concept art for a character called Atolo. I like this one. It's called Season Rush. It's just the 4 seasons put together in a kind of mad rush. Here's Chocolate traveling through a forest on a rocky road with a whole bunch of blobbers following him. Here's a bunch of desert desserts. A bunch of just weird items that look kind of hot or desert themed. Though I really wouldn't eat any of them, since I imagine they all incorporate rocks in some way. Except for the bottom right one. That one's just made of beans. Here's another one in that Blobby Village Forgotten Side. It's 2 blobbers frantically pedaling to get away from this thing. This is exactly why you shouldn't use a laser pointer around the blobbers, being kind of like cats in a lot of ways. They like boxes, they like laser pointers, and they can't make up their mind whether to go outside or not. This is some art for Cola Shell Reef, kind of watery tropical area, but mixed with a lot of weird things. This is Beltrim Coast, a snowy winter area with a lot of walkways going between everything that probably realistically is pretty dangerous. I think if you were walking across these boardwalks with like this freezing water below, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. And this part of the boardwalk is even submerged, which, yeah, it's probably not very safe. This is the Rose Rooms, another floor in the B&B. Here is a normal trail, except everything's underwater, so maybe not that normal. Again, concept art for the first area in Chocolate's Travels. Here's some concept art for this chick character called Amiru. This one's called The Last Cookie, and it is the last cookie. The question is, who will get it? I've never understood cooking fruit. Like, I know there's pineapple and pizza, and like there's many other things where people will just cook fruit for one reason or another. I have no idea how that would taste. I've never tried it, but I feel like fruit is so wet and stuff. I feel like cooking it really doesn't turn out well. I think if you dry it, that tastes good, but like just getting an orange and sticking it in the oven, I just can't really imagine that turning out well. Anyways, Chocolate's roasting an orange. That's my point. He shouldn't be doing that. Here's some concept art for some hover drones. The original one was the top right one, which was called a honey drone. They basically act as the bees of Blobby Adventures. This is Mashway Heights, and it's kind of just like a bunch of different places that have been mashed together. Here's a lemonade stand. Here's the lemonade stand's turrets. And here's some concept art for the aquatic version of the Paucos. Now Chocolate's traveling through Eclora Temple, which was basically made from the time that I really wanted to draw something desert related, but also wanted to draw something with ice cream. So they kind of got mixed together. That happens a lot, actually. I want to draw a food, I want to draw a place, and then I end up drawing a food and a place kind of mixed together. Here's some inhabitants for that Eclora Temple place. And here's a cardboard world. Just a place entirely made out of cardboard. I don't know how realistic this is. I feel like as soon as it rains, everything's ruined, but let's not think about that. Here's Winter writing in his diary in a not so friendly place. And yes, that's a toilet. This is Moonlit Halls. I'm not happy with this one. I find it really hard to draw nighttime pictures because you kind of want it to be dark, but I don't like using black that much. I I like keeping things fairly colorful, so it's tricky to get nighttime scenes right, but I think I'm getting better at it. I kind of like the colors I use in this one. It's a kind of a weird, almost abstract one, kind of like space in the background here. It's just a weird picture, and I kind of like it, even if it doesn't make the most sense. Sun tainted. Moon tainted. This one was made for the eclipse that happened this year. I think it was a Ring of Fire eclipse. I always like doing things to celebrate eclipses when they happen. This is Hallows Day. I kind of tried to capture that feeling of when it's Halloween and nothing's happened yet, but you know at nighttime there's going to be a bunch of stuff going on. And here's Hallows Night, when the stuff's going on. And here's Winter with his friend, well, quote-unquote friend, Pumpkinhead. Here's an airship that's kind of circus-themed. Here's some concept art for a character that really only works around Halloween time, but they have a decent design, I think. Here's some airship issues. Here's the Pumpkin Bread Mansion. I like kind of trying to mix things from one holiday and put them in another holiday. So here's the Halloween version of a gingerbread house. I feel like the icer may need to be fired though. He doesn't seem to be doing the best job of actually getting icing on the gingerbread. Though I guess the work he did on the house is good. He just spilt a bit. At the end of the day, it all comes down to which price is cheaper. Even if it's only 1 cent cheaper, that can make all the difference. Here's a kind of fuzzy abstract one for a room in that B&B. I needed a character that was like a painter, so I decided to come up with this character. I think he looks pretty good. Here's another one of Eclora Temple. Again, kind of Egyptian, but mixed with ice cream. Here there's a storm approaching that B&B. I'm sure it'll be fine. Here's the Guardians of the Library. This was when I wanted to draw something related to chess, but also needed some things for a library. Came up with this. Here's some police officers for a gray city. And here's that library, that chess-themed library. And here's the painter at work, except he's kind of getting a little bit distracted. Every year, I always like doing a nice, simple, peaceful, relaxing image of Thanksgiving. A thankful time where everyone is civilized and everything is nice. Just like this picture. Here's another one of that storm approaching that B&B. Also, the sign for the B&B is exactly the same as the one I made all those years ago. Here's some different costume ideas for Beep. I always like coming up with different costume ideas for characters. I don't know how many of these I'll even really use. It's just fun dressing up characters in weird and unique things. Here's Tracks in the Snow. I actually really like this one. I don't know why. I think just the colors used in it are simple. As I said earlier, I think I have a problem of usually using too many different colors or details and things. And with this one, I kind of got it just right. I didn't use too many. It's the right balance. Here, some blobbers are hijacking a tree for their sap. I feel like whenever I draw using this kind of simplified style with line art, it looks pretty good. The problem is, I don't like drawing like that. At the end of the day, I really imagine my artwork looking really painted-like. And so that's what I want my art to look like. I want it to look painted and natural, with a lot of different details and smudges and, well, like it was painted. I don't want this simplified look, though I do feel like these look the best. Here's a nice cozy one of a midnight balloon trip. I feel like this is really dangerous. Here's an updated version of the Blobby Adventures logo. I made this Blobby Adventure logo a very long time ago, so I feel it's important to stick with it, though the logo really doesn't relate to Blobby Adventures much. I mean, it has a gear here, some berries, a mountain. Like, none of it really relates to Blobby Adventures in any way. except for the blobber. But again, I feel like I should stick with him. It was one of the first things I drew for Blobby Adventures, so I don't know, I have to keep it, even if it doesn't make the most sense. Another picture I really like, it's basically Halloween, but on Christmas. I actually got this idea from a dream. Though in the dream it was a bit different. Instead, everything took place inside this big building, and the way that you would trick or treat would be to run around and tackle other people, and then steal their candy. And it was all Christmas themed. So that inspired me to think, what happens if you go trick or treating, but it's all Christmas related? And I guess you get handed cookies instead, which I think would be a very bad idea. I just imagine a bag full of crumbling cookies everywhere, getting icing all over the place, and it'd be horrible to have to walk through a bunch of snow and stuff. Yeah, I can see why trick-or-treating on Christmas may not be the best idea. This is Pancake Tinkerers. They're just tinkering around with a bunch of different things that could work on a pancake. This is The Heist, and these guys are daring to attempt to steal some cookies from Santa, which, I mean, is understandable. Santa can go to every house in the world and get all their cookies, which, I mean, he doesn't need it, he's fat enough. This is the Advent Calendar. I actually realized I never drew an Advent Calendar before. Seems like that's a Christmas thing, but I just never did it. Here's a cozy one. It's kind of an open view of a house with some blobbies in it making cookies. The question is, can you see inside the house because that's just how the picture is? Or is this house actually just missing an entire half of it? I'll let you figure that out. Even though I think this picture looks decent, I'm not happy with it because the original idea was a lot better. Originally, I wanted it to be like on the right, there'd be that kind of cheap toy-like decorations, and then in the top left, there'd be that really over-the-top fancy gold decorations, and then the bottom left, there'd be this kind of blue-themed silvery decorations. At the end of the day, though, it really just looks like there's red, yellow, and blue decorations. I want to revisit this idea next year, though. At first, from the outside, this looks like a nice, peaceful house, though you'll notice that inside, it's a bit chaotic. Every year, I like to do a Santa defense picture, one where the blobbies are trying to get Santa. And this year, I guess they're really going for setting the bait, making sure the bait is correct. Even if Santa doesn't like one type of cookie, surely there's something here he'll fall for. And finally, there's December on the Rails. A real nice, cozy one to end off the year. And this one I quite like a bit. So now the question, which of these pictures are my top 3 favorite ones? I think I'm going to rank my top 5 actually, because there's 5 in particular that kind of stand out to me. In 5th place would be this B&B one. It was one of the earlier ones in the year, but I really like the colors they used in it. They're kind of unusual colors, quite bright and pastel almost. After that, I think it'd be Season Rush. I really like how all the seasons are combined here, and I really like the colorful and chaotic energy of it. After that, in 3rd place, I'm kind of divided between 2 pictures. I think for 3rd place, I'm going to put Right Idea, Wrong Holiday, which is, of course, the trick-or-treating Christmas one. In 2nd place, I think it actually might be December on the Rails. I quite like this one. And then finally, for 1st place, it's Tracks in the Snow. I just really like the colors they used in this one. It's simple, but effective. And that's really it for the year. Overall, I think I'm more happy with the art I did this year than last year, though there's still a lot that needs to be improved. Originally, I wanted to have one style that I'd work with, but I think this year, I realized that it's better if I just have multiple different types of styles. I wanted to be a kind of hard line art style, like this image, to be a kind of paintedly style, which I don't think I've quite gotten there yet. I also kind of like the idea of playing around with a more watercolor style, though I'm not sure if I'll go with that. I'll have to see. I'm not sure if I should set a goal for next year. This year it was 200, and I only got 150 pictures made, so 50 pictures away from my goal. Not super bad, but I mean it's kind of bad. One goal I might try to do for next year is making a calendar. I've always wanted to make a calendar, and I really should start selling my art, so that might be something I try to do. I also want to get some playable demos out for my games, since a lot of the stuff I work on is my games. Like, pretty much all the art that you just saw is basically just concept art for my games. I think games is the best way to show off my ideas and stories and stuff, and so that's something I want to work on more this year. I also want to show more about my games on this YouTube channel, though I'm not entirely sure how to do that yet. I don't really want to do dev logs, since I don't really want to show like how my game is made and stuff. I kind of just want to show more about the ideas that go into my games and stuff. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see. Actually, I think I figured out what I'm going to do for when it comes to setting the goal for the amount of art I want to create. I'll try to get a picture done every other day. So if there's 365 days in a year, then that means I need to make 182.5 images. I don't know what I'll do about the 0.5 part, but I'll figure it out. That will be my goal for 2024. So higher than this year, but not quite 200. I'll do my best. And if you make art, you should probably set a goal for the amount of art you want to make too. I think it's a fun goal to set. And if you do, maybe let me know in the comments. I'd like to see if people are setting goals. And also, how happy are you with your art? I'm just curious to know.